Ah, the 90s. A time when technological advances allowed racing games to get more realistic than ever before, and fighting games were getting more gritty and grimdark than ever. And what does Nintendo do in the face of those kinds of trends? They say, F you, we're gonna do cute cartoony stuff, we don't care. So while the rest of the video game industry in the 90s is trying very hard to make the next Mortal Kombat or Gran Turismo, what does Nintendo do? They put out Mario Kart and Super freaking Smash Brothers. And it totally worked! Mario Kart and Smash Brothers are still incredibly popular, while most of those series that tried to copy Mortal Kombat and Gran Turismo back in the 90s are dead. But the real question is, why did it work? Why did Mario Kart and Smash Brothers become so successful? There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the big ones is both of those series take the core principles of their respective genres and simplify them while not dumbing them down. They make them accessible to new players while not sacrificing depth. They also don't give a rat's ass about trying to be realistic or to recreate reality in any way. Instead, they reimagine reality as a more fun, interesting, surprising, bizarre, surrealistic place. While so many other fighting games and racing games were tripping over themselves to try to convince you that they're real, Mario Kart and Smash Brothers both say, we know we're not real, you know we're not real, you don't care, we don't care, let's have some fun, you jackass. In this way, and in many others, Splatoon feels like the long-lost cousin to both Mario Kart and Smash Brothers. It takes the online competitive shooter genre, lightens it up, opens it to everybody, makes it incredibly weird, and squirts you in the face with color, vibrance, and fun at every frickin' turn. At its heart, Splatoon is really about being a teenager and all the mushy identity, ambiguity, and competition that comes along with it. The game starts off in a large urban plaza that looks exactly like the kind of place that teenagers might like to go and hang out after school. There you can shop, check out and see what your friends are wearing, and also go down a back alley and talk to a weird sea urchin man and buy bootleg shoes. This is also where you can jump into a game, either single player, online multiplayer, or head-to-head local multiplayer. Three very different experiences that share the same core concepts, but in the end have very different appeals. For instance, single player shares a lot more in common with something like Super Mario Galaxy than it does with the campaign you might find in Call of Duty or Battlefield. Just as Super Mario Galaxy's central gameplay hook revolved around gravity flipping and world hopping, everything in Splatoon anchors on painting your immediate surroundings, then traveling through those surroundings in the most advantageous way possible, oftentimes as a squid. I've given this whole squid transformation thing a whole lot of thought, so you're gonna have to bear with me here as I talk you through it, because I love talking about it. In Splatoon, you play as a teenager who has ink hair, and that ink hair also has tentacles. From there, you're armed with a gun that shoots ink that just happens to be the same color as your ink hair. You can also turn into a squid that's the same color as your ink hair, who can travel through the ink that you've shot through your gun at very high speeds. You can even go up walls as long as it has the right color ink on it, and you can pass through grates any old time, because I guess that squid is made out of ink and or liquid and therefore doesn't follow the same laws as physical reality. You'd think that being a sort of were-squid who can turn into ink whenever they want would make your life pretty simple, but no. If you get shot by ink that's a different color than you get sad and then explode into gas or some sort of squid ghost and then reform later in a totally fine physical form somewhere else in the world. And this is why video games are the best. By hinging the entire game on this ink-shooting squid transformation dynamic, the player is always given something interesting to do, regardless if they're in a combat situation or not. This is particularly true of multiplayer, which doesn't actually reward you for killing the other guy, and instead rewards you for spreading your ink around the battlefield as much as you can. Of course, it's going to be helpful to take the other guy out now and again if you want to get your ink spread around more than the other team, but still, you could go entire rounds without getting in much in the way of combat at all, and still play an important part of your team's victory as long as you're smart and play strategically. By giving players a constant sense of purpose and meaningful involvement in the playfield, Splatoon manages to stay fun no matter how good you are at it, but it's very easy to accidentally see your skills improve at a rapid pace. That said, I don't think you have to worry about getting too good at Splatoon too soon and then getting bored of it. Most of the weapons play totally differently from each other, so if you feel like you've mastered one, it's very easy to pick up another one and feel like you've got a whole new game ahead of you. And when you've got a game like Splatoon that has mechanics like we've never seen before in any game ever, there's so much to be explored. Just the other day I saw a guy shoot a wall, hide in the wall in squid form, and then jump behind another player and shoot him right in the back before he even saw him. It was completely nuts, like nothing I'd ever seen in a shooter before. It was nuts. As awesome as Splatoon is at its core and how many great, interesting new design ideas it has still has these lingering pieces of crap to it that just bring the whole experience down a little bit. For instance, if you go online, you get in the lobby and you're about to join a game, then you decide you don't want to be in that game anymore, you can't just quit it. You have to wait for the timer to count down, and sometimes the timer is like 200 seconds long. Admittedly, you can play one of these little mini games during that time that are actually really fun, but still, you should be given the option to quit if you don't want. There's also just not enough in the way of options on how you play online. Sure, there's a lot of different weapons and tons of different kinds of gear that all have different stat boosts to them. That's really cool, but there's only 5 stages to play online and 2 different modes. So sadly, fatigue might set in a lot sooner than it has to. If Nintendo had just thrown a few more stages in there, a few more modes, or maybe some sort of co-op for the campaign mode, that would have gone a long way. And maybe they'll do that in the future, but for now we can only review the game we've been handed, which just feels a tiny bit short in terms of online options. But if the biggest complaint you have about a game is that you want more of it, then you did something pretty darn good. So good job, Nintendo. More of this, please. More Splatoon. More Splatoon forever. Keep giving me Splatoons forever. Forever. That's how many Splatoons I want. Splatoon forever. Like Duke Nukem.